My name is Gidon Ariel. I'm speaking to you tonight from my home near Hebron. It's the first night of Hanukkah in 2015. And I'm here to tell you about something that happened about a month ago. A story that truly combines darkness and light. We're tonight on the holiday of Hanukkah, that is the holiday of light. But we are not only a few weeks after a story of terrible tragedy, but is followed up by tremendous happiness. I'm talking about the story of the Littman and Beigel families. The Littman family and the Beigel family were about to be married, and they were on their way to the Shabbat Kala, the Sabbath of the bride, which is a tradition amongst Jewish families. The bride's family, except for her, travels to spend the Shabbat weekend with the groom's family. And it's a tremendous celebration for both of those families, both of the in-law families, while the bride herself spends the Shabbat with her friends. So the Littman family, who lived in Kiryat Arba, next to Hebron, was on its way to the Beigel family, the family of the groom. And only a few minutes before Shabbat, they were passing not far from my community, the community of Otniel, when a terrorist opened fire with a machine gun on the car of the family, with 7 of the family members in the car, and immediately killed the father of the family and his 18-year-old son, while the rest of the people in the car were either lightly injured or suffered from shock. Now, the entire people of Israel suffered from shock that weekend, because we started hearing this news just before the advent of Shabbat. Shabbat comes in, of course, with sundown Friday evening. And it was an exceptionally tragic evening for the entire people who lived around this Hebron area, because Rabbi Littman, the father of the bride, was a teacher in the local elementary school of Kiryat Arba. And in fact, a good number of the young boys in my own community lived here, but went to school in Kiryat Arba. So this was obviously a terrible tragedy for the family, a terrible tragedy for the entire people of Israel and all of its friends and supporters, and for our community, as I said, because my own cousin's son, my nephew, is in the first grade, where Rabbi Littman was his teacher, as well as the teacher of so many, about 25 of his classmates. Rabbi Littman also taught in others of these classes, other of the grades in that school. The Jewish people, after a death, observes what is known as Shiva. Shiva means 7. It's a 7-day mourning period. During this 7-day mourning period, people from all over the country and all over the world came to Kiryat Arba to comfort the Littman family. However, only a few days after the murder, as I said before, Sarah Littman, the bride, was said to be married. What would be with the hall that they were meant to be married in? Well, what happened is that a school in Jerusalem, a girls' high school, decided to lift the gauntlet and decided that they would take that evening and they would hire the hall and turn it, instead of a night of glad, personal, family celebration of the wedding, into an evening of studying, of introspection, and of great faith in God. Within 1 or 2 days, they put together this entire evening with rabbis from around Israel teaching, and there were thousands of people who came to this event. Personally, I had a little bit of something to do with this, because when I saw that these girls from this high school were putting together this event, I contacted them and asked them if they had a Facebook event for this. And when they said that they're not so much into Facebook, I created one and made my little impact for this event, because a few hundred people registered for the event through that Facebook event. Well, that was only the first part of this story, because nobody knew what would happen after the family got up from Shiva, after they got up from their week of mourning. The family, Sarah and her fiancé, Ariel, decided, we are not going to let this terror end our lives. It ended the lives of my brother Nathanael and of my father, Rabbi Littman, but our lives are going to go on. This is our answer to terror. And not only will we continue with the wedding, but we are going to invite the entire nation of Israel to this wedding. Could you imagine that this family decided to open up their fresh wounds to the sobbing balm of Jewish community and of Jewish unity? And that is what we saw. On that evening, thousands and thousands of people came from all over the country, and in fact all over the world, to share in the simcha, in the happiness of the Littman and Beigel families. Now, I want to tell a little bit about my feeling about this. This really shows the whirlwind, the roller coaster of Jewish life. I think that possibly one word that you could use to describe Jewish life in Israel and Jewish life in general is intensity. We don't go for just wishy-washiness. Whatever we do it very strong. And that is what we have found in Israel, and that is what we have found in this actual example of, on the one hand, terror, and on the other hand, celebration of absolute joy. And that is really something that I think really brings us together as a people, and each and every one of us as an individual. But more as a people and an individual in our generation, I think that this really is a sign of the redemption. Because the Jewish people recognize all of the difficulties all throughout our history, but we recognize that the end of every horrible event comes a new time of empathy and of happiness. And if this is the way it is for individuals, even for individual generations, then you can only imagine how it will be when the entire world says goodbye to its pain and hello to its ultimate redemption. And that is really what the Jewish wedding is all about. Obviously, it's about two people coming together to build a new home in the Jewish people. And the sages say that anyone who comes and brings happiness, who makes a bride and groom happy, it's as if they have rebuilt one of the destroyed homes of Jerusalem. What does that mean? That the Jewish people recognized that Jerusalem was destroyed over 2,000 years ago. But today we see, and as we have believed for these thousands of years, that one day Jerusalem would be rebuilt. And when it will be rebuilt, we will see what kind of tremendous happiness that will be. And that is the little bit that we see when we participate in a wedding of a Jewish man and a Jewish woman. These tremendous thoughts are in my own heart, and I was happy to be able to share them with you. Please leave your comments and I will try my best to respond to them in the area below. Thank you.